some people are going in. So some people are going in.
All right, the time is now 6 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. So we'll do a roll call vote. Adam Sheely, aye. Thank you. Stephanie Butenhoff.
Aye. Here.
Sue Kradowitz.
Here.
Michael Saad.
Here.
And Michael is virtual, just so you all know. Corey Bees.
Here.
Okay. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. I want to thank everyone for being here. So we'll move on to number 4, approval of agenda. I'm seeking a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Okay. Need a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. So seconded by Sue. Any discussion? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
All right. So motion carried 5-0. We will move on now to number 5, public comments. So let me go over and get those. Okay. Thank you, Gene. I just want to remind everybody, per district policy 0167.3, all comments are to be directed to the board, not to staff or other participants. No person may address or question board members individually. I do have the right to have participants be interrupted, warned, have their statement terminated or removed from the meeting if you do not observe reasonable decorum, or if your statement is abusive, obscene, personally directed, or irrelevant. So could we please leave out all the fake media stuff, all the fake science stuff? Let's keep it, everything civil, please. Let's have reasonable decorum. It's a sensitive topic. So let's get through this agenda. So members of the board can ask questions for clarification and briefly discuss the matter as permitted in accordance with state statute, but may not take any action on an item unless it's on the agenda. So please identify yourself before speaking in accordance with our board policy. Everyone will be allocated 3 minutes. And we will start with Wendy Davis.
Okay. Hi, my name is Wendy Davis. I have 2 children here at Bristol School. I would have been to prior meetings in the past, but I've been unable to attend due to work obligations. And I know there are a lot of parents that also would like to attend these meetings, but often have other obligations such as work, childcare, having children's after-school activities, and they have similar sentiments. Last month, as a board, you guys said you would monitor the data. We have experienced an increase in COVID cases amongst the students while at school. We have tried without masks, and we've had spread amongst the students. Let's try universal masking for 30 days. and then look at the data. I would also like to see some of the other mitigation policies revisited, such as quarantining close contacts. Please honor what you told us last month and reconsider the masking policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Next up is Shelley Burnett. I got the squeaky chair again.
Hello, my name is Shelley Burnett. 4 of our 6 children attend Bristol. I come to ask that you give serious consideration to revising the current COVID-19 protocols. After a rocky start last year, my children were able to be in person quite successfully for the remainder of the year. I'd hoped we'd return to similar strategies this year, but instead we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. Kids are packed in the lunchroom again, and quarantine requirements have kind of been all over the place. And of course, with mask optional, I would kind of equate this with having a peeing section in the swimming pool. COVID doesn't really kind of stay to one section of the room. My family has a challenging situation, one that requires us to rely on the goodwill of those around us. Joshua is a medically complex 3-year-old in Bristol's special ed program. He falls into several high-risk categories. We still take many precautions as a family for Joshua, but school is a big red flag for us. The numbers keep increasing and Bristol has very little in the way of mitigation strategies. I'm a medical mom, I read a lot. Confirmation bias is a powerful force, and I don't think I'm going to convince anyone on that front. Instead, I ask, are we basing our guidelines on the expertise of medical professionals such as the AAP or Children's Hospital? I was grateful to receive a response from the board saying that they would like to investigate a middle ground. It seems that currently we're at one extreme with mitigation strategies and numbers rising. The other extreme would perhaps be virtual learning and vaccine mandates. I'm proposing that the middle ground is something as simple as mask mandates or revisiting what we did last year. My children have learned to be so selfless for their brother, which warms my heart because they're definitely not learning it from the world today. When I see people reacting with such vitriol over something as simple as masks, I look at Joshua and my heart hurts. Help us to slow the spread until kids like Joshua have the opportunity to protect themselves. We're not asking for kidney donations, just better COVID mitigation. I suppose at the end of the day, I'm posing this question. What is our responsibility? First, what responsibility do we have to the community to slow the spread? Last week, ICU capacity and staffing issues were a big concern in Wisconsin. My husband works in medical device sales and in cath labs, and he said in many places, doctors are being limited to performing less than half of their procedures because of staffing issues. Even if you're not worried, do we have concern for our neighbor? Secondly, what responsibility do we have to preserve in-person learning? Because that's best for children. And for parents who don't have the means to stay home with their children repeatedly. And finally, what responsibility do we have to the least among us? Kids like Joshua, who have to rely completely on the goodwill of those around him to help him stay healthy until he can protect himself. Do we have a responsibility to all children during this pandemic? Or do some fall into the category not worth considering? One that says those with underlying conditions are at higher risk of severe disease and death. If that's not your child, consider yourself lucky, but it is mine. Are some just expendable? Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Shelley. Next up is Linda Mizwicki.
Hi. So I'm Linda Mizwicki. I have 3 children here at Bristol, and I wanted to thank the board because you guys are my neighbors and my friends and my daughter's piano teacher's husband. So I appreciate the time that you've spent here and all the time you've spent reading my emails this week. I'm asking you for greater mitigation measures. I asked back in August for consideration of universal masking and quarantine protocols and contact tracing, and you said that we would consider certain measures such as the percentage of students that were at home due to COVID. Currently, all of our 6th graders are at home due to COVID. So this is the time to consider it. On Saturday, September 18th, we were made aware that all of the 6th graders were probable close contacts. So I tested my daughter, Amanda, before we went to our state 4-H horse show, and guess what? She's positive. So guess what? A few days later, she is confirm with the PCR test, and we're all at home. When the contact tracer from Kenosha Health Department called me, she laughed at the mitigation measures. There is no effective masking, a lack of quarantine protocol, and a lack of contact tracing. As a matter of fact, a Bristol employee told me that I could send my other 2 children to school during her quarantine days. Clearly, I did not do that. I was afraid that that would result in more students left at home. This is not about politics or opinion. It's about effective measures. I'm a school district administrator in Illinois, and I know what can work to keep kids in school. Masking, contact tracing, and quarantine close contacts will keep the bulk of students in school and avoid further shutdown. The fact that the board engages masks after students are close contact proves that you know that masks do mitigate disease spread, but it's only being employed after there's close contacts. So it's not having the effect. One of my children is immune now, and she can be vaccinated soon. The others are probably going to be fine too. I want them to be in school. So let's use the measures that can be effective of keeping them in school, work with the health department and the CDC to follow the guidelines and keep our kids where they belong, here learning in person. If that's your priority, then we need to look at what needs to be done.
All right, thank you, Linda. Next up is Lori Schroeder.
Hello, my name is Lori Schroeder, and I'm coming again to request that we don't go to full masks. In the community, I see families out without masks. I see children without masks. I see adults without masks. I see people who have COVID positive people out in the community. COVID is a virus. It's here to stay. We didn't do any of these things when we have influenza, which is also a virus, which mutates, which kills some, which can, make someone so ill that they need to stay home. Others, just the sniffles. Same with COVID. My children don't want to wear masks because it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them not be able to breathe. It makes my daughter's eczema flare up so bad that she cries because her face is burning and she has welts and she has scabs. She doesn't want to wear masks. That was her only request for coming back to school this year, was that I don't want to go if I have to wear a mask, Mommy, because my face hurts so bad. You can't see that under that mask, but I can when she comes home. And she takes it off and she has got cream all over her face, going to children's doctors at Children's in Milwaukee, to her dermatologist to try and get a stronger prescription to get her through the week. It's not just those that are immune compromised, okay? I'm fully vaccinated. I have a father-in-law that is immune compromised from having a transplant. He's around us without a mask. It's his choice. It's my choice as a parent to not put my child in a mask. If they were 100% perfect, there would be no COVID at all. Because last year, when everybody was in masks, there was still COVID. There were still kids going home and staying home, even with everybody masked, because they caught COVID or had close contact in school. It's not going away, and I just want to say that we should be able to have the choice on whether or not our child should wear a mask. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Next is Brian Bean.
Hello, I'm Brian Bean. First off, last time I spoke, I want to apologize to Sue, you weren't here, and I gave you a little shot, and I'm sorry for that. So please accept that. Adam referenced the district policies before he started the meeting, asked us to be respectful, and we are. Well, I had all weekend long to go over the Bristol policies. And these are established policies. The first one is the statement of philosophy. And that says right from the district website The Board of Education believes that the purpose of education is to facilitate development of potential of each student. In a free society, every individual has both the right and the responsibility to make choices and decisions for himself or herself. And that's a biggie. When we're forcing masks on anybody, it does that with your philosophy. I threw it on the ground. Secondly, I know a lot of the 6th grade class had home COVID tests. In talking with parents, is that what we rely on? Home COVID tests rather than PCR tests from the doctor's offices? The other thing is ethics. Again, in the district policies, this is for the board, render all decisions based on the available facts and independent judgment and refuse to surrender that judgment to individuals or special interest groups. We're all individuals and there's a lot of special interests, but we do have policy that we need to follow. This isn't going away and never will. I've talked to many of you and this is gonna be around forever. So we're gonna mask our kids forever. And also, we all love our kids, all of us, and we do. If we thought for a second they were in harm's way, the reality is we wouldn't send them to school at all, myself included. That's just true. Lastly, maybe, if you read the student hazing part of the board's existing protocols, I'm screwing up because I'm not good at public speaking, but the hazing policy looks like your mask policy, and that's wrong. So respect. I respect people. You have to respect the other people that don't want what you want, and that's all. Okay.
All right, thank you, Brian. Next up is Trent Smith.
How are we doing? I'm just up here today to say that there's no right way, wrong way. It's indifferent. Everyone has their own opinion. With that being said, the middle ground is not the mask side. It's not nothing. Right now, where we have it is the middle ground. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't, don't. If you're afraid and your kids want to be masked and you want them to be protected, you have every right as a parent to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do your kid, not my kid. But when you tell me that I have to do something for my kid that I strongly believe is hurting and not helping them, that's where I have a problem. You can do whatever you want with whatever came from you guys. What comes from us, we get the choice to pick that. And that's just how it has to be. It's not right to do this. It needs to be right down the middle. Everyone gets to choose. And right now, you may not like it, but guess what? This is the middle ground. I don't like where it's at. I'd rather have nothing. But guess what? Right here is fair for both sides. It shouldn't have to change. There's nothing that's going on. Yes, there's cases. There's going to be cases next year. There's going to be cases 10 years from now. You know why? Because COVID's like the flu. It mutates. It's going to mutate. And even if there is a virus or a shot, it's going to be a crapshoot one day. Which variant's going to come around just like the flu? And guess what? If they pick the wrong one, everyone's getting COVID again. It is what it is. It's not going away. The 6th grade class, there's going to be flare-ups like that. It could have came from an outside source. From what I understand, it did come in from an outside source. We can protect these little kids for 8 hours a day, wrap them in a little bubble, keep them safe. As soon as they leave this place, they're going to go play football. They're going to the grocery store with their parents. They're going over to a friend's house. Everything you just did for 8 hours, right out the window. It does nothing. Unless it happens 24 hours a day, you guys could literally put them in a bubble here, and they're still going to get COVID. You can't change it. It is what it is. All I'm asking is to put it down the middle, keep it fair for both sides, which is what it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Next one is Brian Ishii.
Hello, everyone. It's Brian Ishii. I thought a lot about what I was going to say tonight. And I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of trying to use common sense, try to state that, we all have individual rights and those rights need to be respected and protected. We have a freedom of choice. With that being said, I'm done talking. You probably will never see me here at a board meeting again because actions are being taken to make sure that our rights as parents are being protected. And I promise you my resolve will not be tested. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Kevin Taylor.
My apologies for being late. How's everyone doing tonight? This is what, number 3 for us? 5? I don't know, I've lost count. It's getting pretty old though, right? Like I just feel like we keep going on and on and on and like, let's just put this to bed. Make it up to the parents. I don't want you choosing what's best for my child. I don't think it's fair. I don't tell you what breakfast to eat in the morning. I don't tell you where to go shop for clothes. I don't tell you any of that. Let me decide what's best for my child, okay? And leave it at that. It's not fair for you guys to make that decision. I don't see an overabundance of children dropping dead on the streets because of COVID-19, all right? I just don't. It's crazy. I don't see any, like, where's the data guy at? Where's the science guy at with all this information on where, I want to see it. Someone give it to me. And not just what you found off the news or whatever else. Just give me some concrete evidence. Please. Like, let's just stop this. Put it in the parents' hands and give it to them. I don't want you guys deciding for my child. Let me decide for my child. My son is in first grade. He's not had a normal year yet. My second grader has not had a normal year yet. She had to end on quarantine. And now she had all last year with a mask on. And now this year, we're sitting here bickering over this. She's not had a normal year. My son is behind. He has a hard time. He can't read the teacher's lips. When you can't hear somebody, you read their lips, right? He cannot do that right now. And he's having a hard time. He's struggling. He didn't do good on virtual. None of that. Let me make that decision, not you. Okay? Let me make that decision. I'm tired of this. I'm sick and tired of just coming here and listening to this arguing and fighting and all this other stuff. Like, let us make the decision, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. We'll move to number 6 on the agenda, revisit the 2021-2022 Bristol School Reentry Plan. So we'll have Jack present. We do have quarantine protocols, discussion, and possible action on that.
So I know we talked to quite a few people and got some feedback on the quarantine protocol as far as specifics and and that. So I don't know if my recommendation that I had emailed you guys earlier today, it was in bold to add. We have to our existing policy says identification of a close contact is still necessary and important to of a step to control disease. Individuals identified as close contacts be returned to school as long as they are asymptomatic and wear face covering for the duration of their close contact status. My recommendation would be to include the language unless the close contact is an individual who is living in the same household or residence. The close contact must then also quarantine for the duration of the positive diagnosis. I know we've had some, and many of our families have multiple students in the building. We have had a few siblings come to the building of those that were positive and then later became positive themselves. So I would just ask families that if they have one positive within their household, that they would remain, that they would keep the students home as well, if there's other students within the building. So I don't know if there's any questions or feedback on that specific on item A, but that was the only recommendation that I had for item A, was what I had bolded in my original recommendation.
Jack, is that the one you sent at 12:52?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to update the wording for close contact as presented.
I'll second it.
Jack has laid out in his recommendation.
So Mike, second that motion. So I just want to clarify, if someone is deemed close contact, they still may come to school as long as they're asymptomatic.
No. If they have an active case within their household, we're asking for all students within that household to remain on quarantine.
Right.
So if there's a close contact and the siblings are not, there's no positive case at home, then that individual that's supposed to quarantine can come back with a mask.
Asymptomatic.
Correct.
All right, any other discussion? So we'll do roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
So motion carried 5-0. So B, face covering requirements, discussion and possible action. So Jack, if you could present that again.
I'm sorry, can you guys, Ollie, I forgot to hand these out. While Ollie's doing that, I just want to go ahead and say thank you to all the parents, community members, everybody. I know that I've said this to several people that I had met with in person, that I've talked to on the phone, and literally hundreds of emails that have come in the last weeks. I want to let you know that I read all of them. I try my best to answer every phone call and to call everybody back. And I will always take a meeting. That is my preferred method of contact, is coming down and sitting person to person and talking about what makes our school great and how we can improve. So just know that I have read all the emails. I've met with dozens of people. I have, talked to many people online. The board members are probably sick of my phone calls and emails and everything else too. But we've been in contact quite a bit. So this isn't something that I take lightly. And I will say that it's especially as a new district administrator, it is not exactly the way that I would have liked to start my career, going through this every single day. And I know that it's a controversial subject, and I do try to take everybody's feedback into consideration. It is my job to, I feel, keep the students safe in our building, as well as try to compromise as to, I know somebody had mentioned that, we have very differing views, and my job is always to try to navigate that and make a recommendation to the board as to what I feel is best for our kids. What I will look at here with the board is what Ali just passed out. I will say, if nothing else, no matter where you sit on the issue, our numbers are concerning. They're very concerning at this point. We started with 2 cases very first week. The second week we had gone up to 4 additional cases. The third week we had 10 more cases, and last week we had 26 cases. That brings us to, as of before I came down to this meeting, we've had 51 total cases within the building, which is, I don't even know, in some cases 10 or 20 times more than what other local schools are seeing at this time. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. We have 22 active cases right now by grade level. Luckily, we don't have any in kindergarten. We have 3 in first grade, 2 in second, 1 in third grade, none in fourth. 5th grade, there's 1. 6th grade, we still have 10 students who are positive. 7th grade, we have 1. 8th grade, we have 2. And we have 2 staff members that tested positive as well today. So currently we have 22 active cases in the building and cumulative 51 cases for the year. I don't know how much we necessarily want to compare. I know I always get questions as to what other schools are in our area. I will say that we are much higher, and I'm not exactly sure what the reason is, because I know a lot of schools in the area are mask optional as well. But we are seeing a spread, and we can definitely see within our building that students who are sitting near each other and things like that have been positives. We obviously can never trace exactly where it comes from, but we have some pretty strong feelings that it could be coming from our building as well. These numbers are much higher than expected, and I know that we all agreed to continue to look at the numbers. To me, it's a bit staggering, and I know that we've tried some things in August, and we agreed to try those things in August. They're obviously, I think we have some room to improve. We tried optional masking to start the school year, and said we would continue to monitor the numbers. I think we need to get in front of it instead of being reactionary. I know we talked about looking for compromise. I think that right now we are nearing that 3% ratio, as which before I walked down here today, I did get an email from the health department and their administrative department wanting to meet with us. So my goal is to keep our school open, to keep our students in person learning, and I think for that reason, I know that it's not popular with everybody, and I know that I'm not always going to be popular with everybody, but I would like to recommend a building-wide mask requirement from 9/28 to 10/22. Our meeting date is 10/20, October 20th. And then we would again revisit those numbers during that time. We just don't have enough data at this time to, I know some people are doing different tiered approaches and things like that. I have a hard time with that just because it's such a fluid situation. When we left Friday afternoon, we had 29 cases in the building. When we came back, we had 19 this morning. And by the end of the day, we were back up to 22. So it's such a fluid situation that sometimes those tiered approaches can become difficult to monitor and to switch from in and out of. We also don't know exactly where those numbers are coming from. I know a gentleman had mentioned earlier today about the home testing. A lot of home tests are being taken, and we are honoring those positives because we feel like we have to. We are not I'm not in the business of allowing people who have any sort of positive test in the building. We have also been told by pediatrics and other people who are doing those tests that they are as accurate, and they use for instance, the Walgreens kit is pretty much the same one that your pediatrician would give your son or daughter as well. So some cases they're even saying that you don't need to come in and get that test if you have the home positive. Treat it as if it's a positive. So there is some of that, and the health department might not even necessarily know about some of those positives because we have a lot of the home tests, if that makes sense. I can obviously answer questions. I have the data here in front of me. My big thing is, and I'll continue to say this, is that I don't think this should be forever. I don't want it to be forever. I don't like wearing masks. I'm not wearing a mask right now, but if it's something that I have to do to ensure that our kids stay in-person learning and that our teachers and our staff and our students are safe, I will do it. I think it's a compromise in the sense that we're only doing it for 20 school days at this time because we have such a large spike, and then we can revisit at the end of the month. I know that necessarily isn't always perfect, but I was asked to make a recommendation, and I'm making one.
Button. First off, I know I'm the one who emailed you and said, what would you recommend? So I appreciate your transparency. But I do have some questions. You had stated our numbers are staggering, and we know a lot of our visiting schools are possibly doing a better job, even though they are mask optional as well. So my question would be, move forward, can we try to figure out where that difference is coming into play? This is not a run to the finish line I want to be in first for. So I would like to know where we're truly missing the mark, especially if they're optional as well. Just in an effort to continue to try to keep our students safe. The other thing that we've heard from a lot of the parents is I liked the swimming pool analogy, but with that, it kind of goes in what I just had said. Why is our district having the issue and the other districts aren't having as much of one? That analogy can work both ways, and I'd be very interested to understand the other side. I did like that you had said you don't want to be a mask forever either, and that this is for 20 days. My question would be, in 20 days, what is the possibility of retrying mask optional? I guess, how do we evaluate that if especially we know from the health officials that COVID's not going to go away? And you don't have to answer that question right now, but how do we continue to move forward? Otherwise, I feel like every year or every meeting, we're going to be having these same conversations, and we're never going to get to a point where we can possibly discuss truly mask optional in the future. And there's no disrespect on your decision whatsoever, just for the record.
Let me be very honest. I don't like these meetings either. Okay, I know. We've talked about it ad nauseum. My thing was is that when we met in August, several times in August, we said we would look at the numbers, and if the numbers were, and we didn't really set any guidelines, but I don't know how else to compare our numbers compared to everybody else's other than ours are much higher at this point. And when you're getting calls from the health department, I think it's time for us to try to do something different, and that's why I made the recommendation. I think that we all would like to take our masks off. I think, if there's a hard line in October, I don't know what that is, other than just re-looking at it on the 20th. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but that's the only thing that I can really say right now, because I don't know what those numbers are or what they should be in order for us to take masks back off. I think that's something that my team and my administrative team and my school team will continue to look at and continue to monitor. I have a couple opinions as to why we might be a little higher. I mean, I know everybody has mentioned the cafeteria. We were eating in foyers, we're eating in cafeterias, our school, and we know this, why we're trying to go to referendum in April. We're busting at the seams in some parts.
Yeah.
It's physically impossible to keep kids away from each other all day in this building when you have 840 kids and you have 300 middle schoolers eating at the same time. And now, not can I attest any of that to positive cases? No, but I'm guessing that's probably not helping. The other side of that is a lot of our local schools, and I know we compare ourselves probably to Salem the closest, but size wise, us and Salem are two of the biggest K-8s, if not the two biggest K-8s in the entire state. So that just poses a much different set of issues than, and we all know, the Paris's and the Brightons of the world are great people, but they have a third of the kids in their building and and have much more control over what they can do there. So those are just a few things off the top of my head that we could possibly do better at. We looked at having classrooms or lunches back in classrooms. That's a question. And then you put a teacher in there with 25 kids who are eating in a smaller space without a mask on. Is that any better? So there's those discussions that we continue to have. It's not easy.
No, not like I said, please don't take it as I'm questioning your decision or being disrespectful at all. I've gotten, like you, many, many phone calls and emails this week, which I absolutely welcome it from both sides. But I know the big concern is if we do go mask, even just to hit that reset button, we will not be out of them the rest of the school year. So I think that's just a fair point to talk about out loud.
And to that point, Corey, just going back and looking at our plan from even last year when we did have the stronger mitigation, having these 20 days, and I was looking at the calendar, and that 22nd gets us to the week before Halloween when we're back for 3 days. But just having some time to refresh, like you said, maybe renew some of those mitigation tactics so we can get back to being optional, start all over again, see what happens. I feel like we all need to try again, start fresh.
And I know you guys keep saying like the mitigation. Is there something specific? I mean, I know the board made the decision on quarantine, right? That's the one thing. And then the masks are really the two biggest things that we're not doing that we were doing last year. So I don't know. I mean,
Are we talking, I guess my big thing is like, I know we all tried to say like, let's do a normal school year, but seating charts and whatnot, I don't know if we're necessarily doing our best at that all the time. And like you said, space is an issue. We're well aware of it and there's only so much we can do, but that seating charts and in pods, I know we received a few emails from teachers as well who had success in their class because they are still trying to utilize those pods and seating charts throughout. And she's paid attention to, and kudos to her because she didn't just come up with her pods herself. She looked at who these kids play with and let's make sure that they're with their friends because they're going to be with their friends outside at recess. So let's try to keep these pods all together throughout the day. And she's had success in her room. So I would almost say like, that's an idea of maybe where we're missing the mark, not even on purpose, but where we could possibly do a better job.
Yeah, and that's fair. I will say this, every single time that I've did any sort of close contacting, every teacher's had a seating chart. Every teacher has had a recommendation right on top of, they're right on top of it as far as what kids should be close contact, where they were sitting, all those type of things. So I don't necessarily know, that we're in the same same boat as last year as far as pretty much everybody was in rows and separated and those type of things. That's something that I can reiterate with staff. I do know that we are continuously, and I know Mrs. Bender, who is our new substitute nurse, has already put in many different sanitation practices and kind of done an audit of the building, if you will, to look at some areas. I know teachers are constantly, encouraging hand washing and hand sanitizing and wiping down desks and Chromebooks and all those types of things. So I don't know that maybe we're necessarily perfect, but I do know that those things are occurring regularly. But
and our seating charts following to the extra classes too, like art. So if they're sitting with this group all day, are we making sure they're sitting with that same group? I'm just throwing it out there where we could possibly
Hopefully I should be done here tomorrow.
be having issues.
They should be. That's not something that I've audited. That's something that we encouraged early on. It's something that I can obviously check in better on coming up here in the near future. But I do know, for instance, like the lunchroom has a seating chart for each of the grade levels and the teacher classrooms and things like that, so that we can track it when we need to. Obviously, and as several people had mentioned earlier today, and we all know that especially as the kids get older, they're walking in the hallways and maybe they're outside playing a sports game or they're doing those type of things that aren't necessarily easy to track either. So
100%. And our teaching staff is amazing. So that was not a diss on them. We obviously need to do a better job, and I'm trying to find where we can all work together to accomplish that.
Jackie brought up something about the cafeteria. Have we looked at? If you think that might be a point.
Sue, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, folks. As far as the cafeteria, do we want to go back to having lunch in the rooms? Or if you think that might be an issue where, COVID is going to be spread, you have 300 kids there at one time, or if you have full grades that are together, it could be 160 kids. And if we can't, distance them, what else can we do besides the rooms?
yeah, the lower grade levels are much easier. One, they're just smaller people, right? So there's more space, but they're able to distance pretty well. And I will say our teaching staff is amazing at getting them organized and seated and eating. I don't know the struggle that I have with the classroom eating is it's still a confined space. They might have a little bit more room, but as we know, like I've mentioned several times, as kids get older and they're done eating in 10 minutes, then they're in the classroom on top of each other for, 25 more minutes until it's time to go outside or whatever. The other part of that is it's much more difficult to sanitize, 500 desks as it is to completely wipe down a cafeteria space in the 5 minutes between the two switches, right? So, the garbage then is spread out throughout the building. It really puts a stretch on our custodial staff to try to get all the garbage out and I know they're pretty centralized. So the first graders would always eat in, during their time together in that same hallway, but it creates a ton of trash in different areas. And then, like I said, as the older they get, and then you're putting a staff member in there, whether that be a teacher who's has a right to their own lunch in their own space as well, in their room, which then turns into milk and ketchup and those kind of things all over the place, which is never great for a learning environment either. So that's the reason why we're trying our absolute hardest to not go to classrooms. But I will fully admit there's not a ton of other space in the building. We have the cafeteria and then the foyer outside the admin office there. down by me where at least the middle schoolers can come out and eat, and then as well as the 45 foyer over by the trophy cases. So we're trying our best to spread them out. It's just easier said than done.
Well, and like you said too, the teachers, this is a stressful time for everyone. So everyone is needing that 15-minute refresh to be the best they can be for our students.
Jack, along with that mitigation that you're just talking about, I'm just wondering if we can communicate more with the district to let them know the case numbers. I know you send like a weekly update, but I feel like the weeks are long with this, just to keep people up to date with the numbers, especially in their grade, their students' grades. And then daily screening, I think there was a big push for it last year with parents, just making sure you're not sending your kids to school with symptoms. I mean, one symptom is one thing, but when you have 2, 3, then it becomes the nurse's issue to try to control that.
Just specific communication about that, are you saying, or actually screening ourselves?
Well, we promoted last year in the handbook, there was daily screenings to be done by parents before they send their kids off to school. Maybe just a reminder about that. And then just communication, I think as a whole might be better. We get per classroom updates, right? But we don't get per grade level updates, I guess. So my kiddo's in 3rd grade. I know there was one in his classroom, but I'm not aware if there's any more in his grade. And I know he plays with all those 3rd graders. So just making him aware so we can stay up to date as parents.
Yeah, and I guess for, and obviously we've talked about that quite a bit. The 2 things that we want to ensure is that it's accurate information and it's confidential information, right? So if there's only one 3rd grader that is out, it becomes very clear to everybody who that 3rd grader is. And then when you put that on a district website that said there's only one 3rd grader, we're now putting that out there for everybody. So that's the hesitation that I have with some of the more specific, the communication, the more likely you are to break confidentiality. The other piece of that is that, and I know Ali can attest to this, is that we are at about max capacity workload for our communications department. And Carla, is I don't know that she can handle anything else. Ali is here till 7, 8, 9 o'clock most nights. So I think that the simpler, the better in some cases with that communication. And I know Ali and I kind of had a laugh on Friday that we were looking at some other, we've been asked to, why don't you do a dashboard like? Why don't we do a dashboard like? If anybody, and you guys know Ali, that's not the way that she works. So our dashboard would not just be a Microsoft Excel sheet with two squares on it that said active cases and whatever. So we are thinking of that. I just want you to know that one, it does take time to do those things on a daily basis, and 2, we want to just ensure that everybody's remaining confidential and we're not putting anybody's business out there that we don't have to.
Would you be able to come to the next board meeting with some updates on like what you've seen, or maybe ask around different things that you can do to help get us back to that safe spot, that mask optional? Maybe ask other districts what they're doing if they see success in it?
Yeah, I sure will. I know, and it's just difficult when making this recommendation. There really is nobody to talk to, just because the cases aren't nearly as to where ours are, and I don't know, and I do know, and I don't know factually, but I do assume that our big outbreak is from something that happened outside of school, but reality is they come to school then, right? So I get that. My biggest thing right now, I guess, is just the fact that no matter where we stand on the masks, and I think most people kind of understand where I've been throughout this process and really wanting to try to remain optional. And but on the other hand, I just do not want us to have to go virtual. I know that it's not good for anybody, in my opinion, in that case. And if this is something we can try for 20 days to maybe get through this bump, I think we got to give it a shot. If the health department says otherwise, then I feel like we, I don't know. I know as parents, you guys have been through the virtual thing. I know our kids have been through the virtual thing, and I don't want to have to go there. Obviously, when you have 19 cases in one grade, it was probably time to do that. But moving forward, I don't want to go there. So maybe this helps us get over the hump, but that's where I'm at.
Jack, one more question here for you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you, Mike.
Part of your recommendation is that there's an exception to be made for band, lunch, and recess. Are you still agreeing with that exception?
Yeah, that's one thing I know. Obviously, Mr. Murphy does a really nice job of trying to keep the kids spread out. And obviously, our band program is something we hold near and dear to our hearts, and it's hard to play an instrument with a mask on, right?
Right. Yeah, it's not going to happen, right?
Right. The same holds true for lunch. I mean, there's really no other way around it. Obviously, when the kids are sitting around and they're obviously done eating, we continue to give them reminders to put the mask back on. And even the CDC at this point would say that when we're outside, we're not going to mask anybody.
Okay. Okay. And this recommendation is for everybody that enters the school, whether it's students or staff, need to wear masks. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks, Jack.
All right, before we vote on this, I'll give my 2 cents for whatever it's worth. I do thank Jack for all the time. I know he put in a lot of time this weekend putting this together, and was not easy. And but I appreciate him standing up and giving us this recommendation. Most of you here know my stance. I am for personal choice, and I'll continue to support that. I would have been, kind of tossed and turned quite a bit on the issue. If it was a minimal mandate, I would have most likely gone along with it. The issue with this one is it's open-ended. I have a big problem with that. I've seen how things have gone in the past. And my biggest fear is we will be stuck for a majority of the school year with a mask mandate. So I would like to see something where we can measure, I don't know, some sort of metrics or something, mitigation levels. Say if we hit whatever, then this is what we do. Because we're going to be stuck here October 20th doing the same thing again. Is my fear. I'm not saying we're going to, but that'd be my biggest fear. It has consumed the board for the last 2 months. I have been told numerous times how important it is to support the board's decision, but yet we're here again. So, my stance will always be, it's going to be personal choice. So, but with the mandate open-ended, it's very hard for me to vote in favor of it. And again, no disrespect to Jack and stuff. I do trust you to lead the district, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you're doing to keep the students and staff here and make sure that we can get the education out that our students deserve. So thank you.
I think that's really fair, though. I too would feel better if we could say, like, let's do our 20-day refresh or 30-day refresh, and then we try mask optional again after that point. Just to show that we are truly trying to not be in mask all school year long. But I think with the sixth grade class having the 21, a refresh or at least different thinking or like let's start fresh, it may be in order.
Well, Adam, I know that you say that, here we go again, but when we voted for optional masks, we said that we would continue to look at this, and that's exactly what Jack has done. There comes a time that you have two decisions. You either mask up or we go virtual. The more kids get sick, we have 3 cases this morning.
What are they doing wrong?
Respect, sir, respect. 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 So with that in mind, this is something that we could look at throughout the whole year. My understanding is that, I looked at the calendar and the 22nd is a Friday. And then we come back for 3 days and then the kids have off that Thursday or Friday. So I wouldn't mind just having come back with optional masks on November 1st, which would be the next time that they would come back. And if the numbers start to go up, then we revisit. That's what I'm assuming is taking place. But right now, I strongly support Jack's recommendation to wear masks.
So I'm not going to get an argument about this because I know the decisions have already been made, but you just proved my point. We went from October 20th. Now we're being suggested to go to November 1st. Then it's going to be Thanksgiving.
No.
Then it'll be after Christmas break.
No.
That was my point.
But Adam,
We voted for optional. We said that it was open for discussion whenever deemed necessary. And this is a deemed necessary point right now. My thing is, I'm just telling Jack that there's 3 days we come back, then we're off 2 days. So what's 3 more days? Mask or not, I can sure less, but I want kids to be protected, the numbers going on.
Well, I do too. I understand your point. But that was my point is also we're just going to keep pushing it back because now we've got Halloween. All those kids have gone over to all these houses and stuff.
3 days. Adam, you want to come back
Okay.
those 3 days without
That's all right.
masks?
That's fine.
That's Jack's decision.
Okay.
Jack, can you explain why you chose the 20 days to end on the 22nd instead of continuing through those 3 days? Was there a reason for that?
Just because that board meeting was on that Wednesday and I wanted it to be timely. So I figured if we had the board meeting and something were to change on the 20th, we could then put it in place for the following Monday, just to give us some buffer time as far as communication is concerned. So if something were to change and we were to go back to optional or extended or whatever it might be, I felt like we could go through that Friday. So then we would have some time to be able to communicate that message out to families so that when we came back on Monday, we were prepared for whatever the decision was made on that Wednesday. Nothing more than that.
So do we need a motion here or do we just vote on what Jack said? What's the next steps here?
I think understanding too, like I see both of your points of view. You're saying what's more 3 more days. You're saying we have Halloween in there. Kids are probably not going to go trick-or-treating with masks on unless they're part of their costume. So they're going to be around each other anyways. And that's an outside factor that we have no control over. We don't do trick or treat in the school. We can't control everything. So I understand both of your points of view. I really do. But Sue, at the same time, when you say what's 3 more days, the opposite argument of that is exactly what's 3 more days. Mm-hmm.
And to answer Adam's question earlier, and I understand how this goes, and I will never, take anything personally or feel disrespected. And I appreciate your compliments, Adam. I don't know that, I think we all are here to work together, right? But the only reason that I didn't put a number on it, Adam, was because I didn't feel confident enough as to what that number would be. So that's the only reason, and I agree with you. The only thing for me is that if we drop below 3% one day, and then, or whatever that number would be, 1%, and then the next day we're back up over that, I would almost look at some ranges as far as what the ranges were, so that we weren't constantly going in and out of those ranges. That's the only reason why I didn't put a hard number on it for this time, is that I think that that's something that I would really like to look at, because I agree with you. I don't want to be in masks all year if we don't have to be.
Well, Jack, you're gonna talk to the health department, obviously, because they want to get together and talk to you. So, this is a question, I think, from a metric standpoint, which I think it's a good point, that you can talk to the health department about and find out if they've got any recommendations. Because at this stage of the game, we're out of control and we got to do something about this. So, I don't like masking the kids any more than anybody else does, but we got to come up with some kind of mitigation strategy for this. But I would talk to the health department, see if they have some kind of a way that we can measure this such that we can make a decision to, make the mask optional, because obviously that's where we all want to be. But right now, I think we need to take more, difficult measures.
And I think you compared
So,
it to Salem School also seeing, if Salem's not having the same difficulties that we are, what are they doing that we're not?
We've talked about
They're
this
not
already,
quite as
though.
high as we are, but they're having special board meetings over there as well. So I think part of that is the fact that, they have 1,000 kids and we have 850 kids or whatever, 835 right now, around that area. It's just a little bit, you're going to have more numbers when you have more kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things are a little bit harder to control when you're in buildings of our size. And I know they're working hard over there to come to a solution. And I am in contact with the area district administrators, weekly, if not more. And we're working together on all of it. It's just hard to compare one case to 55 cases or.
Oh, completely understand. And we know Paris, like you have said, is significantly smaller. But their class size is actually comparable to ours, their classroom size. So I would even be excited to learn, what have they done in their school, even in their classrooms, that they're seeing success. Because while they may only have 2 classrooms instead of 4 classrooms per grade, they're still the 20-something in a class.
Sure.
So how can we improve? What are they doing that's working?
Right. I think the other part of that too is that we do have awesome nurses. We have, and I'm not saying anything about any other school, but we have awesome nurses who track it, who report it correctly. We have a communications department that is constantly calling and checking in with people and tracking the data and looking at the data. We have responsible parents who take their kids to get tested and call in and let us know when kids are positive and those things too. So I think that's a part of it as well. And I'm not saying that anybody's not doing that. I just know that Bristol is doing that. So I think that's part of it as well. If I take my kid to get an at-home test and they're positive, I don't have to call the school nurse. Just keep him home for a few days until he feels a little bit better and send him home. I know for a fact that our Bristol parents are calling in that in, keeping their kids home and doing those things. Like I said, I don't know, I'm not speaking for anybody else. I just know that is happening here.
So Jack, I think that Sue said it, you either have to mask and then hope school stays open, right? Or you say optional and school might shut down. So you're meeting with the Kenosha County Health Department, right? And we've all heard this 3% number. I guess, do you have any more information on that? 3%?
I don't. I literally, Mrs. Jacobs, our nurse, she emailed me as I sat down here and said, please check your email. And Mrs. Freyheit from the Kenosha Health Department had reached out just saying that she would like to meet with our administrative team to figure out kind of where we're at and what we're doing as next steps. That's part of my reason for the recommendation tonight, obviously, is if I go there and say, hey, we're going to try this for 20 days, they're probably going to say, okay, go ahead and try it. Let's hope that that gets you through the hump here. If I say we're not doing anything and we're just going to hope that the numbers go down, they could very likely take further steps as to pushing us to go virtual. And I know some people say, well, they can't do that. Technically they can't. I don't know that I want it on my dime saying that I'm not paying attention to what our local health department is requesting us to do. And God forbid anybody would get sick or be in harm's way while they were here. That would fall on me and my staff, and I don't think that I would be willing to take that chance.
No, I appreciate the clarification because I'm not a lawyer. And so I don't understand all of that stuff sometimes when it's being thrown at me, which is why I wanted some clarification.
So, Adam, I hear what you're saying about the hard number. There's no hard number on here, right? And the deadline, I mean, we have the deadline of 10/22. If we were to, in good faith, meet 10/20 in our meeting with full intent to go over this again, look at the numbers, and hopefully we won't be over it, that 3% hump that we're at. Does that satisfy what you would need to move forward with this?
Stephanie, quick question. Are you saying if our numbers go down at our meeting at 10/20, you're willing to go optional as of the end date of 10/22?
Well, I know how quickly it goes from 2 to 3%, right? That's what we saw. It was like the snap of a finger. We were at 1.9 to 2.1, and then it just like skyrocketed. Absolutely. I feel like this is something that we need to just continue to watch. Our parents in the beginning of the year chose to go mask optional. That's what the majority was. And maybe during this time, we can work on another survey just to see where parents are sitting now, climate has changed since July to now. And we can do that collaboratively for sure and send it out as a board so we can get a better sense of the way that our community is feeling now. But yeah, that 10/20 meeting, just to sit down, look at all the numbers, look at the percentage, look at the grades. You could see there was a trend in 6th grade. So what's going on? You can see there's higher numbers in, what grade is it? 4th grade, 8th grade, like what's going on there? Are they in the same classroom? That would be for our administrators to look at, right? And to come back on 10/20, come back to us and say, hey, this is what we're planning on doing to better this. This is what we're planning on doing to get back to mass optional mitigation wise, right?
I'm not trying to be difficult, so please don't take it this way. But what I just heard you say is at 10/20, you could possibly extend this on instead of willing to go optional as of 10/22.
Well, that's without the hard number, right? We just have to look at the scenarios. Like I said, it changes from 2 to 3% really quickly. Jack just got more today over the weekend. It changes very quickly, and that's why he doesn't want to do that tiered system, right? I think it's just really important for us to, like if the numbers go down to 2.8%, you can't really go mass optional at that point, right? Like, okay, this further isn't working. What else can we do? Like, what are we doing wrong? Do I foresee that happening? I hope not. But on 10/20, when we have that meeting, I feel like we can all just come to the table, see what's going on, see if the masks were working, see if the mitigations were working, see if there's any more tools that administration comes back to us with, and try again, restart.
When you say restart, do you mean optional or not? I guess I'm throwing you, I want it black and white.
If the numbers
There is
are
no
low
black.
enough, sorry, Mike was talking. I was going to say
There is
if
no
the numbers
black and
were low
white,
enough, I would say, yeah. If the numbers got low, like even 1%, I mean, we started the year off with 2. We didn't even start off fresh, but now it's out of control. To me, masking was a way to keep school open, and I think I was very clear about that in talking to some teachers and our administrative staff, and just knowing as a parent how difficult virtual is, and having to take off of work. A lot of our parents are working parents, having to take off for those 2 weeks, that'd be extremely difficult. And I know there are parents that would rather stay no mask or mask optional and then risk a shutdown. And I could totally understand that too. It just puts us in a hard position because shutting down the district moving to virtual has a huge impact on so many day-to-day lives. And I know masking does too, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's different. So on 10/20, I would come to this table and really talk it out. And if we have another survey to go off of, that'd be great. The more information we have, the better. We've been getting tons of calls and emails about this topic, and it has taken over our board. And I hope we can talk about the curriculum committee next month or at the 10/20 meeting. But just to try something, refresh, restart, 10/20, sit at this table with a lot more information at our fingertips and come together and make a decision.
That's very fair. I guess I've heard you say it both ways now, so I'm still not 100% sure where you're going. Because you said also come back to this table and see if it's working. And I think being that middle person and hearing both sides, and I do want you to know, guys, I truly read every email. I hear both sides. I understand both sides. I have an autoimmune compromised son. With that, though, hearing both sides, I also heard you say, if it's working, and I think the biggest fear out there is if it's working, you're going to want to keep it mask mandated.
I think that's just where being a board member comes into play, right? We made an oath to the community and our school. And it's, yes, to educate, make sure the kids have the best education that they can have, right? But it's to do it in a safe environment. I really, really hope that this works and we can move forward and go back to optional, watching the community numbers, watching these numbers, and just make sure it's the right choice. I'm not saying that, I just hope that the numbers work. And if these mitigation strategies work, and if they work, we can come back on 10/20. It's just it's a hard deadline, this 10/22. We can come back to the table and talk it out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball or what's going to happen on 10/22. Sorry, guys. Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball on the 22nd. You know, I think we got to do what we got to do right now to protect the kids as best as we possibly can and avoid shutting down. Because if we shut down, the kids aren't going to get the education that we know they need to have. So with that said, I'm going to accept Jack's recommendation and make a motion that all staff and students required to wear masks in the building from 9/28 to 10/22 with exceptions will be made for band lunch and recess.
I'd like to make an addition to that, that visitors also be included. So anyone that's in a district building, wear a mask, whether that's staff, students, or visitors.
Aren't our visitors already wearing a mask? Okay, so that part's just not changing. Okay.
Well, I thought that visitors follow the same rules. So those that come in after school, they would be required to wear masks.
Yes, I think. Is that what you meant, Stephanie?
Because they would have to follow the same
Yeah,
policy the school has in place.
I guess it'd be anyone in the district buildings, just to keep it kosher clean, yeah.
Thanks for the ad, Steph.
All right, any last minute discussion before we take a vote?
We need a second first.
We got a second, didn't we?
Okay.
Yeah,
No, we didn't get a second.
I'll
Stephanie just
second it.
added to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Mike made the motion. Did you get that, Gene? Did you get all of it? Okay.
It's for 3K through 8th grade. All outside groups and staff.
Anyone that comes into the building, yep. Before, during, and after school.
Thank you.
All right, let's do roll call vote. Adam, nay. Stephanie,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Corey.
Nay.
Okay, motion carried 3-2. Time is now 7:19, so I am seeking a motion to adjourn tonight. I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I will second it.
Second by Corey. Do a roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
All right, motion passed 5-0. Thank you for attending tonight's board meeting. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. You can find our email addresses listed under the board member website under board members. So thank you. Have a good night.